Good evening. Well, what a collection of the leaders of the Christian church. My Lord Bishops, there's quite a few here. Reverend Sirs, the wonderful graduates, and all those tonight that are receiving awards. What a gathering, what a demonstration of Christian faith in action tonight. There's quite a few bishops in there. I have to tell the story of when the Archbishop of Canterbury came to Mississauga. And I was mayor at the time, so of course I had to attend. The Mississauga News, of course, was there. And the next week in the Mississauga News was a cartoon. And there was the tall, lanky Archbishop of Canterbury and the short little mayor of Mississauga. And the question he asked me in the cartoon was, what do you think God would think of female bishops and clergy? And I said, I thought she would agree. So that's a cartoon that is framed, and I know. Well, tonight I just was so amazed that I would be asked to give the address this evening. And I want to thank the two people that nominated me, my wonderful priest that did so much as priest of Trinity Anglican Church, Harold Percy, and David Toyson of World Vision. Those two gentlemen have been just so wonderful and have supported me all the way, etc. And I want to congratulate all that, as I say, received awards tonight. It's good to see the young people. There are quite a few young people, a little bit on in age, but most of them, taking the responsibility and the challenge of representing and serving people, because the service above self is so important. Well, tonight I thought I would go through my journey. I'm always asked to talk about my journey in the public service, but tonight I want to talk about my journey with the church. As Harold said, my mother was the organist in St. James Anglican Church in Port Daniel. And she took me to church every Sunday because I was the youngest of the family and she didn't want me to get into trouble at home. So I went to church every Sunday. Education in Port Daniel went to grade 9, and so I had to leave home for my future grades in school. So my eldest sister, was a teacher. So she took me away with her. She was teaching in St. John's, Quebec, just outside of Montreal. And guess where we boarded in St. John's, Quebec? With the Anglican minister and his wife for a whole year. Then the next year, I had to get into grade 11. So I went to Quebec City to get my grade 11 in Quebec High School. And guess where I stayed there and boarded? At Bishop Mountain Hall, run by the Sisters of St. John the Divine. So again, exposed. I finished my grade 11 and then decided I would go into the business world, so I needed some education. So I attended Notre Dame Secretarial School on Sherbrooke Avenue in Montreal, a school run by the Mothers of Notre Dame. Again, the church, Christian church. And then my company transferred me to Toronto in 1942 to help set up the office to build the world's first synthetic rubber plant. And so I boarded in Montreal, and at the place where I boarded, there was a couple from Toronto. So they suggested that I didn't know where I would stay when I went to Toronto. They said, well, Mom and Dad have a couple of rooms since we've grown up and left the family home. So go and stay with them until you find a place to live. and that was at 523 Oakwood Avenue. I lived with them for 10 years, and in fact was married from their house. Mrs. Clark was the organist at Streetsville United Church, at the United Church on Oakwood Avenue. And she said, Hazel, you gotta go down to St. Michael and All Angels. You're an Anglican. It's a great church for young people. So down I went to St. Michael and All Angels. Got involved in the AYPA. Under our priest then was Reverend George Snell, who became Bishop Snell. And there I felt right at home in St. Michael and All Angels Church. In 1947, I was chosen to represent the Anglican Church, as Harold said, at a Second World Conference of Christian Youth in Oslo, Norway. I had never been up in a plane, but I flew to Edinburgh, Scotland, in a very noisy plane. Got out and had to go from there to Newcastle on the east coast of London. Got on the wrong side of the road. I didn't know they don't drive on the right side of the road. Finally got by bus to a family, an Anglican family in Newcastle, and stayed over the night there. And I remember this so well because for breakfast, 1947, folks, for breakfast I had bacon and eggs. That was their ration for a month. And so I sailed in a boat from Newcastle to Bergen, Norway, and then went by train from Bergen, Norway to Oslo. And there we met youth, Christian youth, from all over the world, except Germany and Japan because of the war. And what an experience to meet with young people from all the different parts of the world. It inspired me to come back and see how I could make a contribution. The theme of that conference was, Jesus Christ is Lord. And I'll tell you, it was so good to hear the experience of the young people as they struggled in many parts of the world. We were so fortunate, the group of us from Canada representing the different Christian churches. And then on the way back, we stopped by in London, England, for a conference of Christian youth. And that's where I met the Queen. She was 19 at the time. Just interesting. She was at the conference. Came back to Canada, and then toured Canada, telling of the wonderful experiences that I had. And so you see, I followed. I met my husband in AYPA. And of course, we got married from St. Michael and All Angels, and then moved to Streetsville, to Trinity Anglican Church. We became a member immediately in 1951, and I've been a member ever since of Trinity Anglican Church. So you can see my whole life was church, church, church. And so it certainly prepared me. And what the AYPA did, unfortunately, the Anglican Church made a very bad decision and eliminated the association. Because it's interesting, even after I became mayor and visited many parts of Canada, you'd be surprised the people would come up and say, I remember you, Hazel, you were involved in AYPA. You know, because once you became a member of the AYPA, then you felt a fellowship with Anglican young people all over Canada and even beyond, as I did, as attending the Second World Conference of Christian Youth. And then, of course, I entered the public service. And I can assure you that the experience that I acquired in AYPA taught me many things so I could operate more successfully as mayor. I knew how to conduct a meeting. I knew what the rules were, etc. And I knew about the fact that there's the right things to do and those that you shouldn't do. And every morning as I got up as mayor for 3 years as mayor of Streetsville and 36 years as mayor of Mississauga, I can assure you that a prayer that I often said was, God, teach me to know the things I cannot change and the strength to change the things I can, and most important of all, the wisdom to know the difference, etc. And so again, I went from, and then as mayor of Mississauga, I also want to say, I learned a lot about other religions, Sikhs, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, and others. It was such a wonderful experience to know that in all those religions, they do believe in God. Their God is maybe different to my God, but they do believe in God. And what I appreciated most, that all these very, very, very many big events that I went to, that I, as mayor, as a female, was respected. You know, I used to tease, the Muslims. I said, why do you keep all the women up there and I'm down here with all the men? Pull them together. You know, I never hesitated to say some of the things that maybe I shouldn't have said. But you know, you have to have a sense of humor as you go about. And so that experience has been such an asset to me as I served with the people. And you know, public service is not too different from service in the church and other organizations. And that is to be concerned about people. You know, as I retire now and get involved in many organizations, et cetera, and boards of corporations, et cetera, that my experience and what I acquired and my faith in people, because, you know, I often say I was at a prayer breakfast just a couple of months ago, and a lot of people got up and talked about prayer, et cetera. And when I got up, I said in front of the cardinal of our Roman Catholic Archdiocese, prayer without action is not prayer. We have to have action with prayer. And I say to those that are graduating and taking on responsibilities in parishes, in the church and other Christian organizations, the challenge out there is great. We are being challenged. Secondly, you got to be realistic with the people. The young people today are faced with many, many philosophies. And I can show you one thing that I get from young people is technology is moving very quickly. And it is having an effect on our Christian faith. No question about it, because people are just not knowing what's going to come out of the blue. And so the young priests that are moving out today, female and male, I can assure you, you better be realistic of what's happening out there. You better be very conscious of what the people are facing, and especially the young people. You can't just throw routine to them. They won't accept it. They want something unique and different approach to the teaching of the gospel. It's got to be realistic. They don't think in things of great little fantasies in regard to the Christian faith. They want something tough. They want something hard. They want something realistic. That's the way I see it. And so what a challenge and what an opportunity that those that are going out into the parishes of the Anglican Church and into the other Christian services that exist, organizations, etc. It is a real challenge today. We are losing ground, in my opinion, losing ground in a big way. I think of the Gaspé Coast was settled with people from the Channel Islands to come over to buy fish to ship back to England. And the company was Robin Jones and Whitman. And every area of the Gaspé Coast where they located, they built an Anglican church. Think about it. And of all the churches they built, there's only a handful left. It is really disappointing. One of the reasons, though, there's still the faithful few that support the churches down there. But young people and I had to leave the Gaspé Coast to go to Quebec and Montreal to become occupied in different professions, etc. But the church, the Christian church, is losing ground. On a Friday in Mississauga, a mosque is so filled with people that there isn't enough accommodation on any of the roads to accommodate the cars. In fact, as mayor, I even suggested to the Muslims that they change. Why do you have to pray at 1 hour? Why don't you spread it out so we don't have the traffic problem? And I also said one night, because our traffic people were giving out a lot of tickets, I said, God never exempted you from paying a traffic ticket. So, you know, we are being challenged. And then another thing that bothers me as well, not bothers me, but I'm concerned about. I think of the Maple Leafs playing the games in Toronto. And the park outside of the 20,000 within the building, there's another 10 to 15,000 outside cheering on that Maple Leaf team. And as you know, Sunday, the Raptors, think of the people within that team and out. I haven't seen any religious function in Canada that has had as many people as at the Maple Leafs and the Raptors. Don't you think that should concern us? We don't seem to have the appeal that the players of basketball and hockey have. And of course, we certainly don't get the money that they get. There's no doubt about that, etc. So these are the challenges I see at my age of 98. Because I was a depression kid. Not too many in the audience that know what it is. You know, it's interesting. The young people today wear jeans with holes in. And they pay a lot of money for those jeans. I wore jeans with holes in because of a depression rather than an impression. And so we have a lot of challenges. And I look back and say, I hope that I made some contribution towards my role in the public office to prove that faith can help you along the way in a big way. And so tonight I thank this wonderful college that has graduated so many wonderful people. And the other thing that should concern us, as I sit and watch TV, and I read the newspapers, either on my iPad or the hard copy, there's nothing positive about the news. It's all negative. Negative. Shootings, stabbings, bombing, and you name it. I don't know if that happened when I was a youngster, etc. But things are changing, folks, and we should be concerned. I say to my people in Mississauga, A community is only as great as its people. And if the people participate, as they should, and make a contribution, and not be a part of the me society. There is a society out there called the me society. We should be more concerned about you instead of me. And so with the press against us, and with the challenges that we're facing, with others competing greatly for the attendance of our citizens, then we do have a very special challenge. But we mustn't give up. We must be positive and go forth with the theme of the Oslo Conference. Jesus Christ is Lord, and Lord of all things. And if we promote his story, his message, it's got to convince people to believe in Jesus Christ. It's got to. And I want to say to you that go out and preach. One last thing. Harold Percy is a person that has meant so much to me because his messages every Sunday that I attended church, I felt I could go home and start the week with a determination to do my very best to implement his message. It was down to earth, it was realistic, and it felt good to promote it. Thank you for this great honor. It's been a real, it's a fun, you know, it's not, I'm not saying it's a finale to my life, because I'm looking forward to be 100. I don't know if I'll make it or not, but I can assure you I've received many awards. I've received many degrees, 3 or 4, 3 at least, but this means more to me than anything else, because it's sort of the finale of my life as a child, going to church every Sunday, and through my entire life that I've been associated with the church. Thank you, and have a great evening.